Why should cops be on the front line in the fight against homelessness?
He's going to get a summons.
What homeless person wants help from someone with a gun and handcuffs, no matter how professional or polite or well-meaning that person might be?
I think the subway diversion program needs to end.
Scrap it.
If that's what is going on, it's not diversion, it is coercion.
It's a civil summons and transit adjudications bureau. It's the lightest touch you can have, basically. There is no warrant. I don't know what the fine is. Maybe $50. I don't know.
I was just basically outstretched. For those who are not familiar with the concept of being outstretched in New York City subway, it's basically taking up more than one seat. And it's pretty regular to see. I mean, you could have so much as a bag next to you, you could be sitting upright with the bag next to you, and you'd still be considered outstretched. Back in August of 2019, I was sleeping on the E train. The police woke me up, asked me if I needed services. I said yes, fool as I was. They took me off the train, put me in handcuffs, put me in holding, went through my personal possessions, even though I said no, I didn't consent to it. Took my shoes, everything, whole nine. Basically treated me like a common criminal, as it were. I sat in that holding cell for about an hour and a half when outreach workers from BRC came to collect me.
I heard about the diversion program in June 2019 when it was announced. It didn't look great, but we didn't realize the extent to how bad and how out of control this became until we received a letter from a group of anonymous transit officers in November of 2019.
I'll read this into the record. As dedicated officers assigned to the NYPD Transit Bureau, we are writing on what we feel is a matter of utmost importance: the blatant discrimination against the homeless in NYC subways. What the public isn't being told is that homeless people are now being handcuffed, put over the radio as an arrest, and then brought into our transit commands. There, the homeless individuals are being coerced into services that could have been provided without having to handcuff and bring them in. They are being threatened to accept services and told that if they refuse, they will get a ticket, which most can't afford to pay, or go to jail for a violation that the Manhattan DA has already made clear will be refused for prosecution anyway. It isn't about helping them.
In one of the videos that we shared online, you could see the gentleman saying, "I don't want to go."
No, don't, puppy. Don't use this. Right? That's it. You can't be doing you ain't talking to no Right? You can spend 3 days in jail. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
So every time I talk about this program, I make it clear that this isn't a choice, it's a choice. And that what the program really does is try to threaten or coerce people into accepting services that, to be clear, they have already been offered.
I would characterize it as excessive, to put it nicely. Because we have God knows how many homeless people sleeping on subway cars, sleeping in subway stations, for no other reason that there is a lack of affordable housing. I mean, what percentage of those who are actually street homeless want to be street homeless?
What we hear from folks on the subway is that they very much are familiar with the outreach teams. They engage with them consistently. What we hear from outreach workers is, we know everyone on the subways. We engage them consistently. So what this program is actually designed to do is unclear.
Okay, but back to the goal that essentially you want, I want
to be able to expunge every single summons. That's our goal.
Okay.
And find ways to get there.
Okay. Okay. So then my next question is, why issue them in the first place?
The hearing really highlighted that the data doesn't support that the program is working. We learned that about 2/3 of the people who are given summonses end up keeping their summons and having to pay it at some point. And then 1/3 of people, their summons was vacated because they had a quote-unquote meaningful engagement. But when the council pressed and tried to understand what a meaningful engagement was, it became very clear that the meaningful engagements weren't so meaningful.
What is the definition of, I don't know what the definitions of these categories are, so.
So the NYPD does not define meaningful engagement, just as in the HOPE program. We leave that to our professionals, the social workers.
Sure.
Like so many other things in life, image and reality very rarely mesh up, because what we're looking at here is not just a counterproductive measure to address homelessness. It's also very much a treading on human civil liberties as well. You are targeting people simply because they are homeless.
What we really need to be doing is investing in back-end resources like transitional and permanent housing so that the people on the subways have places that they want to go that are available to them.
I spent 2 years in the New York City shelter system from the middle of 2015 to the middle of 2017. There were issues with a lot of the shelters, lack of safety, lack of sanitary conditions, indifferent staff. People deserve to be treated with dignity. There is none to be found in the shelter system.
So if the approach then is to threaten a homeless person to say, here's a summons or go talk to this outreach worker, all that serves to do is to erode the trust that we're struggling mightily to build. And so this program is really undermining our efforts, and it's actually undermining the very investments that this administration put in place. And so I just really want to call out that hypocrisy and note that they're really handcuffing these workers, these outreach workers, and making it impossible for us to do our jobs.
I can certainly understand why they would say that, partly because when I see outreach workers, I start to get a little suspicious. Is there a police officer nearby who's ready to just put me in handcuffs again and send me up to the closest available precinct to put me in holding again? I certainly don't trust the outreach workers that much.
I think the diversion program shows that the priority of the administration is not necessarily to help people. I think the priority right now is to get people off of the subways so that everyday subway commuters will stop complaining about folks who are homeless. I think it's a backwards approach. I think it's a cruel approach. And I think the fact that they've tried to pitch it as this helpful thing is really disingenuous.